Welcome to the Krusty Fox and a brand new season of Sex and the City. We're starting at the very beginning, which anybody who's seen The Sound of Music will tell you is a very good place to start. Unless, of course, you're sneaking off to meet a member of a fascist youth group in a gazebo, in which case the best place to start is therapy. If you aren't 16 going on 17 but you are new to the series, then check out the playlist using the link on screen now to catch up on all of last season's happenings. And stick around for this week's question at the end of the video too. This episode is entitled Take Me Out to the Ballgame, and we're at the point now where it's practically impossible to tell whether the writers are just being literal or attempting a really lazy innuendo. Since the first of her many breakups with Mr. Big, it's fair to say that Carrie isn't doing so hot. A solid month later, she's using her time productively by wandering the streets looking like she did her hair and makeup after staring at an eclipse. She's also inconveniently seeing her recent ex in the face of every smug, besuited business drone she passes like he's a far less ambitious Mr. Smith from The Matrix. It turns out that Carrie has been in hiding since their split. She's convinced that Manhattan and its 1999 population of 7.4 million is small enough that she'll walk face first into at least one of his giant eyebrows at some point. Miranda and Charlotte finally drop by to liberate her from her anti-Big bunker. Miranda is exasperated that 4 weeks hasn't been enough for Carrie to forget all about him, presumably because that's how long she waits before feeling sure that the police won't come around questioning the whereabouts of her recent exes. She uses one such ex as an example, barefaced lying about quickly getting over previously unmentioned love of her life, Eric. Charlotte offers a mathematical approach, claiming that getting over somebody takes half your total time with them. One of many fortune-telling equations she's probably got scratched into the masonry under her bedroom wallpaper like crap runes. When that doesn't fly, she chirpily suggests healing through depression, hatred and slander like she went to the Kardashian school of marriage counselling. We do learn, in the course of this conversation, that Carrie apparently dated Big for a year, which I think would only stand a chance of matching the first season's timeline if you ran headfirst into a wall before trying to piece it together. But, as ever, if the writers don't care, then why should we? They bundle into a taxi and swing by Samantha's apartment to pick her up. To Carrie's surprise, she's still dating James and his fun-sized fiddlestick. Carrie's shock mostly stems from James having lasted 2 months when Samantha's bedroom is, quote, usually busier than Balducci's on a Saturday. An early sign that post-breakup Carrie's levels of judgment are going to dwarf her already impressive achievements in season 1. Miranda ends up taking them to a Yankees game, partially because she's a fan and partially because there's a new player on the team she's into. When Carrie catches a foul ball, she decides to get the new Yankee to sign it by abusing her press pass privileges. Exactly what the Yankee Stadium security thought a sex columnist needed to be behind the scenes of a baseball game for is anybody's guess. After an embarrassing fangirl display by Miranda, a drunken Carrie decides that getting her hands on just one ball isn't enough, and so invites new Yankee to a Dolce & Gabbana party that she has absolutely no business being at herself. While getting ready for said party, Carrie happens across a photo of she and Big in bed together, taken on a disposable camera and of the kind of quality you only see nowadays in unsolved crime documentaries. She describes Big as looking sexy in it, but honestly, he looks about as stiff and dead-eyed as what gets wheeled out of her apartment 23 years later. Continuing her abysmal record for correctly interpreting the evidence of her eyes, she judges the D&G shindig to be a home run, despite it looking like it's being held in a moderately crowded kitchen showroom. Charlotte introduces her latest boyfriend, record label VP, Paul. He spouts pretentious waffle about Miles Davis, while everybody else politely pretends that he hasn't worn his trousers so high that they're practically a G-string. Possibly to take some of the heat off him, the new Yankee conducts the whole conversation in a weird demon voice, like he's welcoming people to Castle Dracula. The reason for Paul's sky-high belt line quickly becomes apparent. He adjusts his package, publicly, often, and without any awareness. When Carrie notices, Charlotte quickly holds his hand to stop him, likely coating hers in a warm layer of mid-party Paul musk. Carrie then suffers another big hallucination, but is surprisingly disappointed when she realizes that it isn't him. Suddenly, it becomes clear. She isn't trying to move on, she's cosplaying as a non-lunatic on the off chance that he shows up. What makes her think Big would display even a hint of jealousy, as opposed to slapping her date on the back and yelling good luck as he sprints off into the distance, remains a mystery. As she walks home with the new Yankee, she nonchalantly admits that up until that point she didn't even know his name, an impressive disregard for another human being, even for her. Supposed sexpert Carrie then talks in voiceover as though allowing Joe, for that is his name, to get to first base is a massive achievement. This week's column is going to be raunchy. At brunch the next day, Miranda testily asks if they can talk about something other than men, a request that would play very differently if she was to make it during the events of And Just Like That. Charlotte breaks the resulting awkward silence with a plea for help with Paul's nut-scratching conundrum. She just can't imagine why a college-educated man would ever rummage around in his happy place in mixed company. Given the antics of the average college student, she should probably just be grateful he was doing it over his clothes. I'm beyond happy to tell you that Samantha is distracted from the core issue by Charlotte's admission that after 3 weeks of dating, she hasn't yet caught sight of her boyfriend's wrinkle purse. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back for Miranda, who storms out after giving the others a reality check about their menfolk fixation as though she didn't just spend an entire season bleating about the same thing like an overstimulated sheep. Despite admitting that Miranda has a point, Carrie does her usual and sidesteps any healthy reflection by falling back through her front door carrying so many shopping bags that it looks like she ram-raided Macy's. Samantha, who obviously heard that saying about the definition of insanity and thought it was worth a try, tackles the issue of James's shrimp crank Brunch on. After deploying every single weapon in her considerable arsenal, including the introduction of a pocket pleaser that sounds like it could chip concrete, she concedes defeat to his weenus. Elsewhere, Charlotte tries to address Paul's wayward hands by buying him new, supportive underwear and presenting them with a speech which makes it sound like she thinks his nads are dangling somewhere around his ankles. Oblivious to his own bollock fondling, he thinks being bought underwear is too much too fast and breaks things off, leaving her apartment with a customary handful of his own grundle. Miranda, dressed like she's about to drive an 18-wheeler cross-country, goes for a walk to calm her man-frazzled nerves. She dives behind cover when she spots ex-boyfriend Eric and the woman he dumped her for. It's apparently because she isn't as over the whole thing as she claimed, but also probably because she doesn't want him to see her in an outfit which at least implies that she's on her way to strangle a hitchhiker in a gas station bathroom. Carrie decides to lead on Yankee Joe a bit more, and goes with him to a grotty looking bar where she finally gets her wish and runs into Big for real. Despite her hot date and put together look, she might as well have dribbled down her front for all the good it does. She babbles almost incoherently at him before him placing his hand on her shoulder causes her to have something approaching a stroke. Ever reliable when it comes to papering over the cracks, she waits until Joe later kisses her to literally cry into his open mouth. Joe, the first but nowhere near the last perfectly nice guy to be drawn into Carrie's shambolic games, unknowingly receives an easy out when she abandons him on the street. She calls Miranda to a cafe, where they share stories of their disastrous ex encounters, and Miranda admits that she'd forgotten how hard breakups can be. We're left to assume that Skipper either doesn't count in her mind, or never technically left because he's wrapped in a length of carpet underneath her floorboards. Carrie sums up by saying that the most important rule of breakups is that you'll never get through it without your friends. A bold assessment, considering that one of them told her she should suffer, one of them couldn't relate, and one of them told her to shut her pie hole. But on Carrie's plane of existence, that all translates to unwavering support, and so who are we to bring her down? So that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like to let me know, subscribe for more, and if you can, share these videos so that we can fill up all the vacant seats on Carrie's struggle bus. And with the new season come new questions. This time I'm asking, was a month long enough for Carrie to get over Big, or was she entitled to keep whittering on about him for a while longer? Answers in the comments below, and the best get a shout out next time. Either way, thanks for watching, and as ever, if you can't be good, be crusty.